What do you do when the one person you trusted most leaves you stranded in your darkest hour? The hospital's fluorescent lights buzzed faintly as I sat on the edge of the bed, clutching the discharge papers. My hands trembled not from the cold seeping through the thin gown, but from the weight of what had just happened. My son, David, was supposed to be here. He promised. After weeks of chemo, of fighting for my life, I called him, my voice weak but hopeful, asking for a ride home. "I'll be there, Mom," he'd said. But the hours ticked by, and the hospital lobby grew quieter. No David. No call. Just silence. I dialed him again, my fingers fumbling. Straight to voicemail. I left a message, then another, each one more desperate. The nurse, a kind woman with tired eyes, offered to call a cab, but I waved her off. I wasn't ready to admit he'd abandoned me. Not yet. I sat there, staring at the double doors, willing his car to pull up. It never did. The cold hit me like a slap when I finally stepped outside. The November wind cut through my gown, and I hugged my arms tight, the 4 bruise on my wrist throbbing. I'd beaten cancer, or so the doctors said, but standing there alone, I felt more fragile than ever. That's when I saw Ida crumpled note tucked under a bench, fluttering in the breeze. It wasn't mine, but the words scrawled in messy ink caught my eye. "Family is who shows up." I laughed bitterly. Family? What a cruel joke. David wasn't always like this. Growing up, he was my shadow, all wide eyes and endless questions. After his father left us, it was just me and him. I worked double shifts at the diner, scraped together every penny to give him a future. When he graduated college, I sold my mother's ring to cover his loans. He'd hug me then, called me his hero. Now, at 32, he was a stranger chasing his startup dreams, always too busy for me. I'd ignored the signs, the missed calls, the curt texts, the way he'd sigh when I asked for a visit. But this was unforgivable. I took a cab home, the driver's small talk a blur. My house felt emptier than ever, the silence louder than the hospital's hum. That's when I found the letter on my kitchen table, left from weeks ago when David had stopped by. It was from my lawyer, outlining my will. I'd planned to leave everything to Hemi's savings, the house, the small inheritance from my parents. It wasn't much, but it was all I had. I sat there, staring at the paper, the sting of his absence burning in my chest. Then I picked up the phone. "Margaret," I said when my lawyer answered, "freeze the inheritance. All of it." My voice was steady, colder than the wind outside. She didn't ask questions. She knew me well enough to hear the resolve in my tone. The next morning, I got a text from David. "Sorry, got caught up with work. You okay?" I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the reply button. I didn't answer. Instead, I drove to the community center where I used to volunteer. That's where I met Clara, a young single mother who cleaned houses to feed her daughter. She'd been coming to the center for free childcare, always with a tired smile and a kind word. We'd talked a few times, and her quiet strength reminded me of myself at her age. Over coffee, she told me about her dreams saving for her daughter's college, maybe one day owning a home. I listened, and something shifted inside me. Weeks passed. David called a few times, his voicemails growing sharper, demanding to know why I wasn't answering. I didn't care. I was busy revisiting my will, meeting with Clara, and finding a new purpose. One day, Clara showed up at the center with a drawing her daughter had made, a stick-figure family under a bright sun. "She says you're like her grandma," Clara said, her eyes soft. I swallowed hard, the ache in my chest easing for the first time in months. I didn't tell David about the will. I didn't need to. The lawyer sent him the updated documents, naming Clara and her daughter as my beneficiaries. The house, the savings, the inheritance would go to them, not out of spite, but because I realized family isn't just blood. It's who shows up when you need them most. Clara had been there, in her own quiet way, without ever knowing the weight of my choices. The last time I saw David, he stormed into my house, waving the lawyer's letter. "What is this, Mom? You're cutting me out." His face was red, his voice loud, but I just looked at him, calm and unflinching. "You weren't there, David," I said softly. "I was in the hospital, and you weren't there." He opened his mouth, then closed it, his anger deflating into something like shame. He left without another word. I don't know if he'll ever understand. Maybe one day he'll see that love isn't a wet it's earned. For now, I'm rebuilding, not just for me, but for Clara and her little girl. They're my family now, the kind that shows up. And in the quiet moments, when the wind howls outside, I feel something stronger than betrayal. I feel free. Yindi.